The snow is falling outside, but inside, the kitchen glows with the warm, kitschy light of a 1970s Christmas. The air is thick with cinnamon, pineapple, and the slight hum of the heating vent. On the avocado green counter, the table is being set with staples of convenience: shimmering Jell-O molds, Cool Whip, and canned cherries. These weren't fancy. They were fun, easy, and completely unforgettable. Today, we are skipping the complicated baking and diving straight into the ultimate sugar rush, the 25 most iconic, nostalgic, and unfussy American Christmas desserts of the 1970s. Get ready for fluff fudge and all the maraschino cherries. Number 1. The Pistachio Fluff Salad. This wasn't really a salad, but a gravity-defying pale green dream, anchored by a foundation of instant pistachio pudding mix and folded with whipped topping. Its distinctive color came from the artificial coloring in the instant mix, perfectly echoing the avocado and harvest gold of the decade's decor. The crunchy water chestnuts and chewy mini marshmallows provided a critical contrast to the airy creaminess. Families loved it because it was a no-bake marvel that stretched inexpensive ingredients, like cottage cheese and crushed pineapple, into a huge volume, ideal for the church basement potluck. The crunch of mini marshmallows and chopped pecans provided a welcome break from the creamy sweetness. Ironically, its popularity contributed to its demise. It was served so often at non-holiday events that it lost its special Christmas cachet. Number 2. The Cherry Cheesecake Log. Forget complicated springform pans. This was the era of the streamlined, no-fuss log. It began with a simple base of cream cheese, powdered sugar, and melted butter, often stiffened with a little gelatin and rolled into a cylinder. The vibrant candy apple red glaze of canned cherry pie filling was spooned over the top, just before serving, making it look like a festive Yule log. It was typically served well chilled on a cut glass pedestal plate, contrasting the pale cream cheese with the shocking red topping. Its popularity soared because it was make-ahead, freezer-friendly, and utilized the newly ubiquitous convenience of canned pie filling. The surprising secret ingredient was often a dash of almond extract in the cream cheese, which gave it a marzipan-like depth. It faded when taste shifted toward more complex baked cheesecakes. Number 3. Chocolate Revel Bars. The 1970s loved a bar cookie that tasted intensely rich but required minimal effort. And these layers of oats, brown sugar, and melted chocolate chips fit the bill perfectly. They were essentially a simple oat dough with half pressed into the pan and the rest crumbled over a thick layer of melted sugary chocolate and pecans. The baked chocolate layer solidified into a beautiful crackly sheen, promising a gooey interior. The texture was a satisfying mix of chewy oatmeal and gooey dark chocolate that held up beautifully when stacked in Tupperware containers for cookie exchanges. Their popularity was tied to the rise of Toll House's dominance and the versatility of the boxed baking aisle. Many older recipes called for lard instead of butter, giving the crust an unexpectedly delicate flakiness, a detail forgotten today. Number 4. Maraschino Cherry Bread. This wasn't a sweet breakfast bread, but a dense, rich, slightly dry loaf meant to be sliced thin and served beside a pot of coffee during holiday visiting. The bright, unnatural red of the halved maraschino cherries and the chunks of green candied pineapple made it an instant Christmas centerpiece. This bread was best sliced slightly thick and served with a thin spread of softened cream cheese or butter. The recipe typically involved a simple batter, often enriched with walnuts and flavored with the juice from the maraschino jar, adding a faint, cloying yet festive perfume. It was a favorite because it used shelf-stable, inexpensive ingredients and kept well for days, embodying thriftiness. Its simple, rustic texture and intense sweetness were eventually overshadowed by lighter, moister fruitcakes. Number 5. The chocolate sheet cake with peanut butter frosting. The church basement cake. Par excellence, this cake was designed for maximum yield and easy transport. It was often made from a boxed mix, Betty Crocker or Duncan Hines, and baked in a standard 9 by 13-inch pan. The high-fat content from the mix and oil kept the large cake extraordinarily moist for days, a crucial feature for potlucks. The frosting was the key, a rich, thick, velvety peanut butter confection made from butter, powdered sugar, milk, and that beloved staple Jif. The combination of moist chocolate and salty sweet peanut butter was irresistible. People adored it because it was simple, reliably delicious, and the antithesis of fussy fine dining. A little-known trick was the addition of a teaspoon of instant coffee grounds to the chocolate batter to deepen the flavor. Number 6. The graham cracker refrigerator cake. A true no-bake classic, this dessert alternated layers of graham crackers, chocolate pudding, and whipped topping, often Cool Whip. Left overnight in the fridge, the crackers softened to a tender, cake-like texture, mimicking a labor-intensive baked dessert with minimal fuss. This was the epitome of the convenience foods craze. Easy assembly, zero oven time. The best slices were achieved by cutting the chilled cake with a warm knife, creating clean, impressive stripes. The layering created a beautiful striped pattern when cut, making it look impressive despite its simplicity. A vintage touch was to use a homemade chocolate custard rather than pudding mix, which resulted in a richer, slightly less stable dessert. It disappeared as people craved desserts with more texture and complexity than softened crackers. Number 7. Peanut butter balls. These were a staple of the holiday cookie tray, though technically they weren't cookies at all. They consisted of a thick, firm dough of peanut butter, powdered sugar, and butter, rolled into small spheres, then partially dipped in melted semi-sweet chocolate, leaving a telltale peanut butter eye. Before dipping, the chilled balls were always pierced with a toothpick to allow for easy handling and removal from the hot chocolate. The texture was dense, fudgy, and intensely peanut buttery. They were popular because they were no-bake, required no electricity beyond melting the chocolate, and kids could easily help roll them. The secret to their superior flavor was often the incorporation of crushed Nilla wafers into the peanut butter base to give it structure. They persist today, but they peaked in the 70s as a Christmas table fixture. Number 8. Mandarin Orange Jell-O Mold. The ultimate expression of the 1970s gelatin trend, this mold combined orange Jell-O with canned mandarin orange segments, and sometimes cottage cheese or crushed pineapple for texture and creaminess. Its shimmering, vibrant orange hue caught the colored light from the Christmas tree like a faceted jewel. The suspended fruit provided small bursts of clean, bright citrus flavor against the cloying sweetness of the gelatin. It was beloved for its novelty, its light, cool texture, contrasting with heavier holiday roasts, and its reliance on convenience foods. Surprisingly, many recipes suggested adding a small amount of mayonnaise to the Jell-O mixture for an unexpected tart richness. This particular Jell-O as salad or dessert confusion eventually relegated it to the past. Number 9. The Golden Rum Ball. A powerful, boozy, no-bake confection traditionally made with crushed vanilla wafer crumbs, cocoa powder, pecans, corn syrup, and a generous splash of dark rum or bourbon. They were rolled in powdered sugar, which gave them a cracked, snowy white exterior that contrasted beautifully with the dark, rich interior. The cocoa was essential not only for color, but to temper the overwhelming sweetness of the corn syrup and sugar. They were popular because they were potent, easy to make in advance, and required no baking, a perfect adult treat for a bustling holiday. A surprising detail is that the rum flavor intensifies over time. The balls were often made weeks ahead and stored in an airtight tin, becoming stronger each day. Changing societal views on alcohol and children's treats helped hasten their decline. Number 10. The 5-layer bar. Also known as magic cookie bars or Hello Dolly bars, these featured 5 distinct layers piled atop a simple crust. Graham cracker crumbs, coconut flakes, chocolate chips, nuts, usually pecans or walnuts, and a generous drizzle of sweetened condensed milk, baked until golden. The sweetened condensed milk melted and fused all the ingredients into a chewy, sticky, crunchy bar that satisfied every texture craving. This dessert was popularized by Borden, the maker of Eagle brand condensed milk, as a marketing ploy in the late 60s and early 70s. The condensed milk caramelizes slightly during baking, creating a soft, toffee-like stickiness throughout the center. The little-known detail is that the recipe name Hello Dolly was inspired by the popular Broadway musical. They became less common as people moved away from recipes so heavily reliant on processed sugar and milk. Number 11. White chocolate haystacks. These were the simplest of the no-bake candies, relying on a crunchy, inexpensive binder and melted white confectioner's coating, often almond bark. Chow mein noodles or thin pretzel sticks were mixed with melted coating, sometimes with peanuts or butterscotch chips, and dropped in small haystack mounds onto wax paper to set. The resulting haphazard texture of the noodles gave the candy an authentic rustic look of fresh hay. They were a cheap, high-volume candy perfect for filling out the treat trays. The satisfying crunch and pure, uncomplicated sweetness were their draw. The surprising fact is that the earliest versions of this candy often used canned evaporated milk to create a creamier, albeit less stable, haystack. They lost popularity as true white chocolate became more accessible. Number 12. Pineapple upside-down cake. While available year-round, the holiday version was often made with a bright red maraschino cherry in the center of each caramelized pineapple ring, giving it a festive red and gold sparkle. Baked in a cast-iron skillet, the steam trapped underneath kept the cake incredibly moist and buttery, with a sticky, dark brown sugar topping. The intense caramelization of the butter and brown sugar created a sweet, nutty crust over the top of the fruit. It was a favorite because it was visually stunning right out of the pan, and the ingredients, canned pineapple, cherries, and a boxed yellow cake mix, were always on hand. Many home bakers used an extra splash of rum in the topping during the holidays to elevate the flavor. The dominance of more elaborate layer cakes eventually pushed this simple skillet dessert aside. Number 13. Christmas snowball cookies. These were not chocolate-based like today's popular variations, but a delicate butter-rich cookie, heavy on the pecans, that was rolled in a thick coating of powdered sugar while still warm. The powdered sugar crust melted slightly as it cooled, creating an extra thick, wonderfully crumbly white exterior. The classic recipe often used only finely ground pecans, though some variations substituted walnuts when pecans were too expensive. They were prized because they looked exactly like little snowballs, fitting the cozy winter aesthetic, and they used shelf-stable nuts that kept well. The surprising detail is that many 70s recipes used Crisco shortening instead of butter, which made the cookies whiter and more tender. They never fully disappeared, but they peaked in the 70s as a Christmas table fixture. Number 14. Dream Whip chocolate pie. Dream Whip was the convenience food answer to whipped cream, sold in a dry mix packet that was combined with cold milk and vanilla. This pie combined the pre-whipped topping with instant chocolate pudding and poured the mixture into a store-bought graham cracker crust. The pie offered a specific, lighter sweetness than traditional baked pies, relying heavily on aeration. The result was a light, aerated, intensely chocolatey pie with the characteristic slight chemical aftertaste of convenience foods. It was a godsend for busy moms because it took about 5 minutes to assemble and was a guaranteed crowd pleaser. Early Dream Whip advertisements positioned it as calorie-saving, a detail that seems amusingly inaccurate now. Number 15. The Candy Cane Swirl Cheesecake. This was a classic baked cheesecake made slightly kitsch for the holiday. After baking and chilling, the top was covered in a thick layer of whipped topping and then heavily dusted with crushed, glittering pieces of red and white candy canes. The visible pieces of candy cane created a sparkling, festive mosaic over the white topping. The cool, creamy texture of the cheesecake was instantly contrasted by the sharp peppermint crunch. It was popular because it took an established, elegant dessert and made it instantly Christmassy with a single, inexpensive candy ingredient. The trick was to crush the candy canes inside a Ziploc bag using a rolling pin, creating jagged pieces that were slightly sticky. This combination of classic flavors eventually became too commonplace for the novelty seekers of later decades. Number 16. Coconut Snowball Cake. This simple round cake, often a yellow boxed mix, was covered entirely in a thick, sticky frosting and then rolled or heavily dusted in mounds of shredded coconut. The long, white strands of coconut clung to the frosting, creating a wonderful, shaggy, fuzzy appearance. The end result was a cake that looked precisely like a giant, fuzzy white snowball. The texture was a chewy, sweet layer of coconut surrounding a moist, simple cake. It was a festive way to dress up a plain cake without requiring complex decorating skills, a hallmark of mid-century home baking. The surprising fact is that the frosting was often an old-fashioned 7-minute frosting, which uses boiled sugar syrup and egg whites, giving it a characteristic marshmallow-like stiffness. Its heavy reliance on coconut fell out of fashion in the 1980s. Number 17. The pretzel salad. Similar in spirit to the pistachio fluff, this dessert was a potluck anomaly. A salty sweet creation with a crust made of crushed pretzels, a creamy center of cream cheese and Cool Whip, and a topping of strawberry gelatin. The layering required significant chilling time to ensure the pretzel crust did not absorb too much moisture from the cream layer. It was served in a 9x13 pan, and its 3 distinct layers, salty, creamy, and sweet fruit, were key to its appeal. It was embraced because it combined the familiar Jell-O element with an unexpected twist, and the salty crust cut the cloying sweetness. The little-known detail is that the pretzel crust often included sugar and butter, making it richer than a simple salt vehicle. It disappeared as health concerns grew, and people questioned the salad moniker. Number 18. Peppermint patty fudge. Moving beyond basic chocolate fudge, the 1970s saw a rise in flavored variations, often inspired by popular commercial candies. This fudge was made by melting chocolate chips, sweetened condensed milk, and a generous amount of crushed peppermint patties, like York or generic versions. The addition of the mint oil from the patties gave the chocolate a cooling sensation as it dissolved on the tongue. The resulting fudge was dense, ultra-sweet, and possessed a pronounced cool peppermint undertone. It was a favorite because fudge was traditional, and the peppermint flavor screamed, "Christmas." A common method was to stir in a drop of peppermint extract right at the end to boost the flavor. It was eventually replaced by more gourmet, sophisticated fudge flavors. Number 19. Cherry Winks. A cheerful, multi-textured cookie that was slightly time-consuming but visually rewarding. It featured a simple, buttery dough rolled in crushed cornflakes, with a small piece of glittering red candied cherry pressed into the center of the dome before baking. The crushed cornflakes baked into a wonderfully crisp, golden, shaggy coating that gave the cookie its distinct texture. They were popular because they were unique and looked like little jeweled presents on a cookie platter. The texture was a chewy, sweet layer of coconut surrounding a moist, simple cake. The surprising detail is that the original recipe was often printed on the back of the Kellogg's Corn Flakes box, cementing its status as a mid-century staple. Number 20. The Coconut Cream Delight. This no-bake dessert was a masterpiece of simplicity, starting with a layer of vanilla wafers lining the bottom of a pan, followed by a thick mixture of softened cream cheese, powdered sugar, whipped topping, and shredded coconut. The vanilla wafers, once softened by the filling, provided a delicate, buttery, cake-like foundation. It was topped with more whipped cream and sometimes toasted coconut. The texture was light, very creamy, and intensely sweet. It was perfect for the 70s because it required no baking and could be assembled quickly, showcasing the versatility of convenience cream cheese. The little-known addition was sometimes a splash of coconut extract to ensure a strong, tropical flavor. Number 21. Black Forest Dessert Squares. This was an easy 9x13 pan take on the classic Black Forest cake, relying heavily on processed convenience items. The base was usually a boxed chocolate cake mix, topped with layers of canned cherry pie filling and a thick layer of Cool Whip or Dream Whip. The final presentation achieved a striking visual contrast between the dark chocolate and the snowy white topping. The presentation was crowned with chocolate shavings, often scraped from a solid block of baking chocolate, and a few maraschino cherries. The contrast of rich chocolate and tart sweet cherry was its main appeal. The ease of assembly and use of pre-made ingredients made it a hit. Many recipes included a quick, simple syrup brushed on the cake layer, often spiked with kirsch, before adding the topping. Number 22. Divinity Candy. This classic Southern candy found its way onto many 70s Christmas dessert tables as a pure, bright white counterpoint to the dark fudges and bars. It's a notoriously finicky confection made from whipping egg whites and slowly streaming in boiling sugar syrup until it sets into a fluffy, nougat-like cloud. When cut with a knife, the internal structure appeared light and almost crystalline, unlike dense fudge. It was often studded with chopped pecans or walnuts. The texture was light, airy, and slightly chewy. It was a holiday favorite because of its pure white color resembling snow and the skill required to make it successfully. The surprising detail is that its success depends entirely on the correct humidity. A rainy day meant certain failure. It vanished as people opted for easier no-cook candies. Number 23. Ribbon candy. While not homemade, this brittle, paper-thin, hard candy was an essential fixture. The translucent folded ribbons in bright Christmas colors, red, green, and white, often hung from the boughs of the aluminum Christmas tree, reflecting the lights. The fragile, multi-layered structure of the candy caught the kitchen light beautifully, making it sparkle. The flavor was usually a simple, intense blend of cinnamon, peppermint, or spearmint. Its popularity was purely nostalgic and visual, bringing a highly traditional, old-world element to the modern 70s table. The little-known fact is that this candy is incredibly difficult to make, requiring specialized equipment to pull and shape the still-hot sugar mass quickly before it hardens. It became too fragile and costly for modern tastes. Number 24. Cranberry pineapple salad mold, a true salad that served as a sweet holiday dessert, often found at the center of the potluck table. It combined the tartness of crushed cranberries, often from canned cranberry sauce, with the sweetness of crushed pineapple and the lightness of cherry Jell-O, sometimes folding in miniature marshmallows for texture. Once unmolded, the smooth, gelatinous surface of the mold would literally tremble slightly upon the platter. The resulting deep, jewel-toned, magenta mold was a stunning sight. Its popularity stemmed from its use of two iconic holiday ingredients, cranberry and pineapple, in a convenient make-ahead format. A common trick was to add a packet of strawberry Kool-Aid powder to the mix to deepen the color and flavor. It largely disappeared as the line between salad and dessert became less blurred. Number 25. The chocolate pudding pie. This humble, rich pie was the antidote to the flashy Jell-O molds. It consisted of a simple, deep chocolate filling, made from an instant chocolate pudding mix and heavy cream, poured into a pre-made chocolate or graham cracker crust. It was often finished with a dramatic, swirled peak of whipped topping and a generous dusting of cocoa or shaved chocolate. It was topped with a thick, billowing layer of stabilized whipped cream, or Cool Whip, and a dusting of cocoa powder. It was universally loved because it was uncomplicated, intensely satisfying, and incredibly creamy. A favorite hack was to add a small amount of cream cheese to the pudding mix before chilling, which gave the filling an unbelievably decadent, cheesecake-like firmness. The aluminum tree has dimmed. The last of the plastic poinsettias have been tucked away, and the counter holds only the ghost of the sweet assault, a lone, empty Pyrex bowl reflecting the moonlight. These weren't complicated recipes. They were testaments to thrift, convenience, and a deep-seated desire to make the holidays feel special with what little was on hand. Simple ingredients like Cool Whip, instant pudding, and canned fruit were the building blocks for unforgettable Christmas memories, lovingly carried across snowy lawns to church basements and family gatherings. Many of these creamy, colorful, wonderfully kitschy desserts vanished with the changing tastes of a new decade, deemed too simple or too artificial. But they don't truly disappear. They live on in the chipped ceramic bowls, the dog-eared church cookbooks, and in the warm, sweet glow of 1,000 family photos, reminding us of a simpler, sweeter, tinsel-covered time.